As the major supermarkets shift their price battle into the fresh food section, there are growing concerns over exactly what is fresh. Now, independent grocers claim their produce is fresher and better than the big chains. So tonight, we put those claims to the test, and you'll be surprised how old some food is. Brian Seymour has the story.
Fresh is fresh, and everything else is a compromise.
It sounds obvious, straightforward even. Fresh means fresh, when in fact, fresh can also mean...
Well, for this time of year, you can get apples that are 11.5 months old, or even older than that, because the fresh apples are just about to be picked, and the ones that are available in the shop have been stored for 11.5 months is the oldest we found.
Dr. Stephen Morris tested the fruits and vegetables we purchased in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane at his laboratory at the University of Sydney Department of Agriculture. Dr. Morris measured the sugar and acid content of the produce and the ratio between them. In Melbourne, the apples we purchased at Coles and tested had their age estimated at 10 months. Woolworths apples, 10.5 months, the same as independent retailer Colonial Fresh. The oldest apple we found in Sydney was aged 11.5 months, sourced from Coles. Woolworths had the freshest at 9 months, and independent Harris Farm 10 months. Coles had an 11-month-old apple in their fresh fruit section at the supermarket we visited in Brisbane. Woolworths 10 months, Zone Fresh 9.5 months, and Farmers Direct 10.5 months.
The best tasting apple was from Farmers Direct in Brisbane.
Australian fruit is the best around the world.
CEO of Aussie Farmers Direct, Braden Lord, agreed to front up today to discuss our test results.
The thing about Aussie Farmers Direct is that we make sure that we buy the best quality product. The reality is that customers choose quality over age.
Navel oranges are out of season. Nearly all of the ones we purchased came from California. Dr. Morris found the oranges at Coles in Melbourne were 4 months old, at Woolworths 3.5 months, and Colonial Fresh 3 months. In Sydney, the oldest orange we found was purchased at Woolworths, estimated age 4.5 months. To Brisbane, and Coles were selling fresh oranges our tests showed to be about 3 months old, Woolworths and Zone Fresh 3.5 months old, and Farmers Direct 3 weeks. Though the orange from Farmers Direct was a Valencia orange, which is in season in Australia right now.
Often if you get fruit that's really freshly picked and it's allowed to ripen on the tree, you end up getting a really intense flavour.
I think at Coles the quality's fantastic, and that's why we can claim there is no freshness like Coles freshness.
Coles spokesperson John Church said Coles supermarkets are stocked with the freshest produce they can find. Their advertising implies that all of it has just been picked and driven there.
And I know how fast we get our fresh produce from the farm to you.
The only items that would genuinely be that long would be apples and pears that are stored. That's the case for every retailer. When you put them on the shelf, you'd struggle to find a difference between a fresh apple off the tree and an apple that's been stored.
Tomatoes were aged between 1 and 2 weeks in Victoria, with Coles the freshest. In New South Wales, the same was true across the samples we bought. In Brisbane, Coles tomatoes were 2 to 3 weeks old. The freshest we found came from independent Zone Fresh at a week old. Woolworths declined to be interviewed for this story. They and Coles question the accuracy of our results. Dr. Morris stands by his work. He also pointed out the little-known method used here for storing produce.
They use controlled atmosphere storage, and that involves using a very low oxygen level and a low carbon dioxide level that's regulated, and they can get about double the storage.
I notice the difference between old and fresh, do you?
Nutritionist and chef Zoe Bingley-Pullen says our food labelling laws are largely to blame for us not knowing how fresh our food really is.
Over time, any nutrients, whether it be enzymes or vitamins, will decrease over time. So what we're really trying to get is fruits and vegetables that are picked and delivered straight to us.
The other produce we had tested included lettuce, aged between 3 days and 3 weeks, potatoes that were up to a month old, garlic aged 4 to 6.5 months, and kiwi fruits aged between 5 months from Woolworths to 11.5 months at Coles in Melbourne.
Yes, apples are a seasonal product, but freshness isn't.
Retail analyst Barry Urquhart argues anything not delivered directly from the farm cannot be properly called fresh.
What we should be doing is, this fruit was picked on that date, placed on the shelf on this date, and will be best if used and consumed before that date.
It goes without saying, I want people eating fruit and vegetables, whether they're old or whether they're picked straight away. It's really important that we have these foods in our diet. It's not just the vitamins and minerals, we also have the fibre content, and we have the foods that fill you up, as opposed to the chocolate bar.
It's Brian Seymour reporting.